Hey, friends. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Um, just say hi to the folks. I see you. And this is likely going to be probably one of the most difficult um, streams that I've done. And as I indicated earlier, it possibly the last of this series. And without, again, it's probably not really within my control how that turns out. But I'll roll with the punches as I do, and well, I'll continue to be me. So let's begin here. As you probably know, as if you've been here for any period of time following along, over the past several months, and in fact, it's now stretched longer really than a year. I've been having some kind of weird medical, unknown, undiagnosed issue, primarily GI. A few other weird things, a lot of hot flashes like night sweats and stuff, but not always at night, and just a few other things here and there that just random stuff. And it's very difficult to figure out. And as anyone who has known me for any period, well, again, my wife can certainly tell you, and she'll be the subject, I think, of a good deal. Unfortunately, I'm sure that she won't appreciate that, but of this, she'll be included in this as well. And anyway, she'd be the first to tell you that I will absolutely not see a doctor for any reason unless I'm 1 foot on a banana peel and 1 foot in the grave. It's, and even now, what I'm trying to accomplish there is to simply use their imaging and techniques and testing procedures to see what we can find out. And it's been a frustrating journey and very exasperating. Initially, I spent months not talking about it because, it's just a thing that just occurred, and it's kind of gross, frankly, and you just, it's not always throwing out. There's other issues as well. And again, I apologize if this is any of this conversation is uncomfortable today. It certainly is for me, and I apologize for that. And it's not one that I would have chosen on my own, but I feel it's been somewhat pressed upon me, and it has raised questions, I think, that I suppose bear addressing. Whether that's fair or not doesn't matter. Questions have been raised, and I think they, given the nature of things and everything going on in our community and stuff, I think it's, I've chosen to address it this way. There are a number of different ways, and I've been, since learning some unsettling news recently, a range of emotions. But let's begin here. Again, so just trying to figure out what's going on with this problem, and it has created all kinds of hassle with my job, with streams, newly joined, Globebuster stream, because it just all kinds of stuff has been problematic, and it's been getting worse instead of better. Well, it comes and goes, and so ultimately, part of the reason I brought it up publicly was because it was interfering with streams and it would cause me to miss some. And I'm just again, my wife calls me a serial truth teller. I am always honest, whether it would serve our purposes better to not be that way. Now, again, that's not always been my whole life. I wasn't, had a cherry tree with an axe held behind my back or anything. It was in my early 30s when I was doing learning to be a counselor. One of the things we had to do was, what transparency, and learn to always, that was terrifying to me. And but once I did it over the last 20 plus years, it has been, I can't imagine any other way to be now. And I just don't, I don't do it well anymore if I were to try, I think. In any case, so the thing came up, and probably wouldn't have brought it up again. I hate that it has become a central factor because it's become so intense and such a problem. I wouldn't have brought it up if it had to, ultimately, without answers and being so frustrating, one of the things that I find immensely powerful is prayer and asking others to share their burdens. And much like the recent event in the Iron Realm Media stream, that was beautiful, beautiful thing. It wasn't actually the GI stuff. It was nerve or tooth or head pain. It's just all kind of a combination of thing following the collision that occurred a couple of weeks ago. And I have no other way to attribute it than through the direct power of intention. The 30-some people in that group completely made it go away. And Well, that was profound to me. And again, you'll find throughout this experience that despite, I don't know, my somewhat, I, traveled the world and well-read and stuff, and I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm saying despite the many experiences that I've had and seeing the world for how it is, unvarnished, I'm still something of an idealist, I think. And so things, I don't know, I'm sorry about the pachinko machine. It's kind of all over. I thought I had my thoughts put together. And and so this idealism, I thought, I saw some things, especially again in this a community of misfits that we are, of beauty, that people were standing up for truth and saying no to tyranny, and more importantly, standing up for one another. And the experiences that I had in trying to help people out, beginning with Dawn, informally hip, and chat, and when her phone went tits up, and I just wanted to get her a phone, and so I didn't really have the money, but I wanted to get her a phone, so I got a phone and asked people, and they donated, and I'd already had it, and we got it. I mean, I had it in the mail 2 hours later. Took her a minute to get it because of customs, and that was even before the pandemic. But there have been other people, Sue, and well, other people. I'm not trying to embarrass them, right? But that I saw in need, Mac, when he was in trouble, right? Just trying to help him out, and so people responded, and that boy, I got stars in my eyes. I thought, well, wouldn't this be a great thing? And probably David Reif, I have you a little bit to blame for suggesting this terrible idea, right, that I might be able to facilitate in some way, I don't know, like a community help station or something, I don't know. And I got idealistic. And so, so then, well, okay, let me, I think I have a transition here, so let's bookmark that for a moment. So back to the, I don't know, unknown medical issues, right? So this has taken, I don't know, kind of a, shitty turn, and it's gotten really bad of late. And so I finally, got insurance. You guys probably know that story. Started doing some tests. They tell me I'm in, I don't say, they tell me I'm in perfect health. All the stuff that we test for, I have superior numbers and everything looks great. Some other things have been suggested that, I was looking at, there's some regularity to it. There's some time issues that I can kind of mostly do it by clockwork, right? So there's some time issues. My wife had suggested on occasion that it might be related to stress, and I just didn't see that. I mean, yes, there are times when I get stressed out and I'll have an attack, but it seemed like that might be more of a triggering mechanism than an underlying cause. And I still think that's possible. But we did notice, especially over the last, I don't know, month or so, an increase of correlation between stressful events and these terrible attacks. And so that's something to look into, right? That it may not be the underlying cause, but it might be a triggering event. And two, here's another thing that we have talked about, right? So without getting too weird and too woo and paranoid and stuff, right? There's the stuff has been floated, of course, about targeted individuals, and because I've stuck my neck out and have a channel and talk about these topics that, they, as we like to say, aren't too appreciative of people getting all up in their gravy. I don't think really I'm that important. I mean, certainly there's, there are, I suppose you could say there's evidence of, what do you call it? Like ionized radiation sickness. I think you could probably look at that. And so I haven't ruled it completely off the table. And we live in an area that's rife with both military and spook type people. We see it all the time. There's lots of 5G. So there's, I suppose, no reason to eliminate that as a possibility. But one of the things that came up just this last, I guess, because here's one of the reasons that came on the table as well, is that my wife has had, you've probably heard me talk about this before again if you've been here at all, that she has some storied history of medical stuff, from diabetes and 2 widowmaker heart attacks, like 15 years ago, within 18 months of each other, 14 months, I can't remember now. We weren't together then, but in her 30s, she had two events, heart attacks, and I mean bypass surgeries and stents, and got a defibrillator, an implant, the whole thing, and so congestive heart failure, diabetes, all sorts of stuff going on. So she's somewhat fragile. And but she's also got irritable bowel syndrome. Again, another delightful thing, and it's a catch-all term, which basically means we don't really know. It's not inflamed, inflammatory bowel disease, but it's IBS, and there's IBS-D and IBS-C, constipation or diarrhea, and it kind of goes back and forth, right? Yeah, so she's had that. But here's my point, right? Without violating every HIPAA rule, it's already done. But so she's had some, all kinds of stuff. But here's the part that became interesting, is that we started noticing some similarity. We have totally different H&P, but history anyway. But the presentation now starts to become similar. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? So that gives some more veracity to the idea of it being environmental, but. So again, bless her pointy little head, she's really good at differential diagnosis, primarily not because she watched a lot of House, but because she's had so many medical disorders. And, it's difficult to find a good doctor. She's had a great doctor for almost 20 years, and as well as a cardiologist since her heart attack. So, and we love them. But she remains vigilant and very good at it. So, of course, when things started occurring with me, she's driving herself crazy trying to figure out what's going on, as one would. And she hates to see me suffer, and that's going to play into a part of the story as well. Because, you see, Madeline and I are desperately in love. And people have literally, in fact, used to all the time when we would go out more regularly, used to regularly ask to take our photographs because we simply exuded love for one another. We just do. We're madly in love and crazy about each other. And we still are, right? These many years on. And so... and I'm not at all ashamed to admit that. And we sometimes laugh about people who have been together for a long time, and they sort of have this antagonistic relationship toward one another, and a bit of antipathy. And sometimes they'll play it up as a joke, right? The old ball and chain, and the old man and the old lady. And we never engage in that, not just because we love each other, right? And it is, Doc. Yeah, sorry, man. So anyway. So so we looked at one of the things that she looked at, right, is and again environmental stuff, because it's what seemed to make some sense, because we were both exhibiting similar symptoms. As recently as just a couple of days ago, we talked about it before, but when she went through the full list, and we were like, oh my God, right? So there might be some hope, at least. So again, I don't know for sure whether we have causal factors and triggering factors, or whether it's all one thing. We still don't know. And I've finally got an appointment with a gastroenterologist, and it's still September 15th, still that far away. But in the interim, I did, because of the collision, I did a MRI, right, of both the head and the thorax. And so the head, because I was severely concussed, and I really took a shot to the head worse than I thought. I was like kind of dingy for days, weeks, a couple of weeks. I'm still not quite together, but I am a little bit more lucid. Man, the first couple of days, I was in a daze. Anyway, I'm losing track here, and I apologize. I'm kind of nervous, right? It's a challenging thing, and I'm not quite sure what to say, because I've been really deeply in prayer the last few days, just desperately asking Dad to guide me in this, because it's not easy, and it's difficult circumstances all the way around. So anyway, let me try to just wrap this portion up, because I think that'll be a good transition spot. And so, anyway, in the last few days, she came upon another article of something that we looked at about toxic mold, and the symptoms are, one to one, every single one, right? And so, depending on how the severity of each one and that sort of thing, but we both have all of those symptoms. And so again, here's the deal. We no longer do, but we were for 2 years nearly homeless, and we lived in a trailer, and that trailer was infested with mold. Everything in it is still. We got rid of most of it after we got out. When you're in there for a while, you can smell it was really intense. It'd make your eyes water, but after a while, you kind of get used to it, and you kind of go nose deaf to it. And we didn't realize until later when we were like leave and walk around, our clothes were, we smelled like a mold factory, like just dank. It's so shameful and embarrassing. But almost everything, all our clothes, everything just got inundated with it. And what we didn't throw away, we washed a dozen times in vodka. It's one of the things that's supposed to help get the smell and kill the mold. And we tried everything. And we still find pieces of clothes that are packed away that smell just like the trader, and it just makes us sick. Well, we were exposed to it for 2 solid years, 24 hours a day, well, other than me going to work. But we knew then it was making us sick. So it may still be a lingering condition, and that is something to investigate with some, because we went down that list, and it was 1-to-1 every single thing. However, again, it sort of comes and goes, and it's just all this, and it does seem to be exacerbated by stress. I'll admit that. And here I think is the time for the transition, right? Is that having then, because of my nature being, one, transparent, I don't really have anything to hide. Two, concerned. It's one of the few times I've ever truly been concerned about anything. And really my concern, frankly, for my health is, honestly, I'm not afraid to go. I don't want it to be painful. I don't want it to be ugly. But I don't want to leave Madeline alone. And she doesn't want that either. So, because we have, the way things have occurred, and it wasn't like this when we got together, but the way things have occurred now, she would say, I don't know that I would agree with her, but she would say that she cannot take care of herself without me. And but it's not a burden. I mean, I love her. It's little things, right? I mean, anyway, I gotta continue. Help me, Dad. All right. So, having brought it up, right? There have been, and I have said over and over again, so grateful for the people in the community, and so many people with suggestions of all kinds, and from a genuine place of caring, and thank you, and sending stuff of all kinds, sometimes really super expensive stuff, so that we can try to see what's going on. And it's difficult, right? Because I got this pile of stuff that I haven't even been able to dig into all of it, because each of it you have to see what it will do, and you can't do it all at once. So you got to kind of pick through it and try it for about 10 days and see if there's any effect. And some has had positive effect, some has had little effect, and nothing has really cured it. It's hard to tell. And I just, but I'm so grateful for everybody who reached out and cared, and I still am. Thank you. And it also, I mean, but, again, because I went public with it, and this is a conversation that I had with somebody last night who I will, again, have to thank. I don't even know if she's here. I'm not really watching chat. I'm sorry. So, people, I suppose, because we have a community and people care, they're rightly speculating. But of late, it seems that some people... and it would be, I know it's cliche to say, right? It's the Job story. People blame the person who for the problem, and okay, I understand it, right? I get it. And I don't even kind of begrudge it, right? We all have speculation, and I hate that it's become even really a part of things. I just wanted it to go away. I just wanted it to stop, and I wanted my life back and to be able to move on. And I had such big plans with the poppy cult and trying to do this communal living thing. And stars in my eyes. And building relationships and wanting to build a community. And so this gets to the difficult part. And I have weighed very carefully how to approach this, and it's just super difficult because it's people that I care about, and I've gone through every emotion, just hurt, and anger, and frustration, and exasperation, confusion. But I have, if you've listened to me for any period of time, you know that um, I don't like confrontation. I don't like drama. I don't really play tit for tat back and forth. I don't do attack videos. I don't like to take on people, even when they have addressed me directly, right? Uh, some of you might be familiar with, and I kind of hope not, because it's just, one of those things you just kind of hope go away. And I paid very little attention to it, but this crazy Tony guy that was harassing Rose and Jason for a while, and then picked up on me because I was associated with them, and just crazy accusations of every kind. And I just ignore it, right? I mean, it's like why give any attention to it, veracity? It's not any it's like it's nuts. It's not even, and it is. Again, I try to follow Dad, right? So, and these teachings, right? So it's the glory, it's to your benefit to overlook a slight. It doesn't benefit you anything to start to take every word with offense and fight back. It's not helpful. So I never want to get into that, and it is my intent, even in trying to explain everything here, that this not devolve into that. I tried everything I could think of to do this in as circumspect a way as possible, because again, it's just the people involved I care about. I wasn't even going to say some of the people, most of the people. Just I care about the people, and again, I'm fumbling, so let me just kind of move forward as best I can. So it has been suggested, and this, I guess, the two parts here. It has been suggested recently, of which I just became aware Wednesday evening. And I don't know how long suggested, but I guess I can imagine, because it probably goes back to the single primary precipitating event, and that's what I'll have to discuss here, and that's what makes me very uncomfortable, because it's not my way. I don't know any way to do it. Again, without, like, boy, I've been in prayer for this a long time, because it's not. All right, so it's been suggested, and again, I have brought it up on a couple of occasions to a few people, usually in private conversation. I may have mentioned it obliquely in passing on a stream, because, again, I don't have anything to hide. My past, I've made choices that I'm not particularly proud of, especially in my long ago past. In a more recent past, again, I have mentioned on, it's part of my story, that about 6 years ago now, we suffered really heavy setbacks. My wife lost her job of nearly 20 years at one of the largest legal firms in Seattle, after having spent nearly 30 years in the legal profession at two of the largest legal firms in Seattle, rather unexpectedly. And we did, frankly, largely rely on her income. I was, at the time, I had my own company and my own business, doing tour sound for a couple of primary artists who were on tour. And that really did the bread and butter, and I did a few other things. I taught driver's ed on the side, and then I took other contracts, just local one-off contracts. But we did pretty all right. We had a nice house, commercial kitchen in the house, great view of the lake, and we did okay. We invited people over when we could, and this was, in fact, before I really was aware of the depth of Madeline's social anxiety. She humored it because she loved me and she didn't want me to be unhappy. But even at that time, I wasn't aware of the intensity and how deep that social anxiety, combined with what we didn't know at the time, her autism, right? Neither of us were aware. She went 50 plus years of her life without knowing that she was on the spectrum. And again, not at all, that doesn't mean stupid, right? She has a frighteningly high IQ, and again, people are weird, because even when I mentioned before, I don't believe that, is a liar. It's like, oh God, why does it matter? Why does any of that matter to anybody? Why does it matter, right? It doesn't. Those numbers don't prove anything anyway, right? It's just one measurement for one thing. It's just one indication. Anyway, before I get distracted, right? So, anyway, we went through a really rough patch, and so that was also right about the period of time where one of the first times I'd ever had anything physically wrong with me, and then I had back surgery. And because I had a synovial cyst at L5S1, which is basically a bubble in your synovia, the synovial sheath, which goes down your spine, and that's the kind of cerebral spinal fluid that's in there. Anyway, there was a weak spot in that. It blew up, and when it did that, I won the pain lottery. It landed right on top of a ganglial nerve root at L5S1, which is the bottom one that goes out to the lower extremities. So like 30,000 nerves right at the root being pinched. It was awesome. The upshot was, I say the fortunate side was, it wasn't all the time constant until later. It started off just kind of being, just chronic, and then it became acute. And they aspirated it and injected some cortisone, and then it did pretty well, almost perfect for about a year. It was remarkable. And then it got real bad real quick, and then I went back, and it had calcified, basically turned into a bone spur right on top of 30,000 nerves. And so they gave me surgery for it, and it was a weird surgery. It was a lumbar laminectomy, which is just a very weird thing to do for that. But that's what they did, and it fixed it, right? But it did mess with the physics of my back and create some long-term issues. But the results, the two primary results, was up in the run-up to that, they gave me huge doses of gabapentin or Neurontin, which is a nerve-blocking agent. It had very unwanted side effects, including personality change, word-finding problems, mental changes, and it took a long time to recover. I'm not even 100% sure a decade later whether I'm 100% myself, frankly. It caused new neural pathways. At the time, it was both scary and interesting. I was noticing how I'd have to create new neural pathways to get back ideas. It was an odd time. One of the side effects is that we all have a bit different body chemistries, right? And one of the we have opioid receptors. We have tetrahydrocannabinol. We have cannabinoid receptors, an endocannabinoid system. But there's no medical value in marijuana, right? Anyway, just everybody's body chemistry is the same. And some people, for example, do very well with cannabinoids, and some people do not. I do very well with cannabinoids. My wife does not. She cannot tolerate them at all. Not even a little bit. She does well with opioids. I really kind of don't. But they do have their purpose, and so that's what they give you post-surgery of that nature. And the surgery was super traumatic for me. Post-surgery, no one could get near me except my wife. She was the only one that could go like through this invisible barrier of my body, and it was entirely involuntary. And that lasted for a long time, especially at that spot on my back where the surgery was. It was like my body knew something terrible had happened. They cut all the way through the muscles, all the way through to the spine, right? And so it was really my body did not like it at all. I mean, it was traumatized, and so no one could touch that spot. And still now, post collision, with being kind of ruffled it up a little bit, nobody can, right? Nobody can touch it again. It's really weird. Anyway, during the recovery period, I was unfortunate enough to get what's called gastroparesis. And gastroparesis it's not uncommon. It's not frequent, but it's not uncommon, especially for people who have high doses of powerful opioids following a surgery or some other event, which your stomach. So opioids do have the effect on your system that just slows it down, right? And so people, one of the things they tell you when they give you things like hydrocodone or oxycodone, whatever, after like dental work or whatever, is that to drink a lot of water, right? Because it'll constipate you, it'll slow your system down. My first experience ever with surgery, I had just a really tiny shoulder surgery in which I had just a damaged tendon in my shoulder, and it wouldn't heal. And so there was two options. One was to try to fix up the tendon, and that would be about a 20-month procedure, like recovery. I mean, career-ending. Or they would try, hopefully, when they got in there and took a look, they would try arthroscopically to see if they could resect the clavicle, because there was a bone spur, a little bit of arthritis on that clavicle that was preventing, it was irritating the spot of the, I know, we're getting into a medical thing here, I'm sorry, but I promise it'll end. The torture will end, hopefully. Anyway, so this tendon was being aggravated, and so they did a surgery to fix that. Their pain, it was at University of Utah where they do the Olympic athletes, so they're really excellent at pain management. They taught me a lot of good stuff, right? Like you don't get any trophies for suffering through pain, right? You don't need to be a retard and just take a bunch of drugs and become a blithering idiot, but neither do you need to suffer. Right, and so they did amazing things with the little packets of stuff that would release almost like down to the hour. He had 3 days worth of stuff in there down to the hour. Says it might not be enough. If it's still not, come back and we'll get you fixed up. And it was perfect. But one of the things that they also gave me was I think oxycodone, and I did not drink enough water, and it was like pooping little lava rocks. It was so painful. I cried. I was howling. My poor son was downstairs. Just, what's wrong with you, Dad? And so yeah, it does that. So anyway, not to get too graphic. The point is, it messes. It has an effect on your digestive system, and people know that, right? So now let's tie these things, I guess, together. So during that period of time, I had gastroparesis, and largely because of the opioids that they were giving me, and it made me where it shut my stomach down. I couldn't take anything in, and so I couldn't even drink water. I would just throw up, and I felt poisoned. All the time. And so anyway, she didn't want to see me suffer. I was both in pain, and I was in pain, but the drugs were making me ill. Well, okay, so I've been in the, on and off in the music. Opioids dry you out for sure, right? So I've been in the music industry all my life, and been around every kind of, drug and thing. And there was, I'd pretty much tried everything. There was a few things I had not tried. And in part because there was a couple of artists that were on a record label that I managed a long time ago, who had been for 20 years. One of them played bass for Greg Allman, Delbert McClinton. I won't mention his name, but anyway, you can probably put it together. But anyway, he was for nearly 20 years. He and another member of the band had been heroin addicts. And so we would sometimes joke about getting the hardest drug we could find, right? We'd touch on that, and he would very sincerely go, dude, don't ever touch that. Like, just whatever you do, stay away from it. And I'm like, why? He goes, because it's the best drug ever. Don't ever do it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's, good for you, whatever. But anyway, that was in my 20s, and so, of course, I was a dumb kid, didn't pay any attention, but never really got the opportunity and never really looked, frankly. So now we're going to fast forward to about a decade ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And this is post-surgery. And so she didn't want to see me suffer. And she said, well, would you consider, trying a little different kind of opium? See, there's alkaloids in opium, and different kinds of there are different kinds, right? Opium is the milk of the poppy, right? And then you can split those apart, and those make different things, right? So you've got morphine and codeine and thebaine and noscapine and pavorine. You got 32 different alkaloids. Anyway, so when it's all together, right, you got opium, and then when they derived some of that during World War II, morphine, right, was very effective as a painkiller, and they could get rid of some of the stuff. Anyway. But then they found afterwards that many people became terribly morphine addicted. And it would, the morphine withdrawal was worse than the pain even that they were going through. And so they developed, did the military-industrial complex as a surprise, I'm sure, to everyone. They developed heroin number 4, which removed some of the alkaloids that could cause nausea, and some of the pain killing attributes and really focus, more on some of these. And so they were using that. That was developed as an alternative, a more effective and less addictive painkiller. So anyway. And heroin's been around for a while, but that they used it for that purpose, and obviously it found its way off a label. And so I once was listening to. Let me finish this part of the story first. So she asked if I would be interested in trying that, and I had never really done anything like, injections or anything like that. Once or twice in my teens, very early teens, I had done it, but didn't like it. Of amphetamines, was not a fan. Still not a big fan. And in any case, so it just wasn't, and I wasn't skilled enough to do it, and so I didn't. And so what I did was I had a vaporizer, a really nice vaporizer that I put together. For cannabis, and was able to use that and kind of combine it with some cannabis and vaporize it, and that's pretty effective. But it was very wasteful, and didn't have a lot of money, even though we were doing pretty good. Trying not to get triggered, man. I'm sorry, and this is something I'll have to talk about right as well. And I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to get through this anyway. It's really this. It's personal, right? And this is the hard stuff, but it's honest. So anyway, so in an effort to ease both my pain and my sickness, she gave me that where I could just kind of smoke it. But I wasn't good with or skilled at doing anything else. However, she had the reason that she was familiar with it and had skills at it was because 20 years prior, she'd had a 18-month run or something like that during her wild days. And that's why I love my baby. She was wild. It still kind of is. But anyway, so she super. One of the things about autism, right? Super kind of OC, very obsessive, very focused, very adept. If you want to learn something, good at it. And so, as I said, she's not only very good at differential diagnosis, she's better than most phlebotomists. And so she hooked me right up. Well, let me tell you, that fixed everything. And I heard later, and maybe this will help describe it, on NPR, which I'm not a fan of now, but I was listening to a PhD who was very frustrated with society's view of drugs and that sort of thing, and what it was and what addiction is and that sort of thing. And he had recovered from heroin addiction. And what he had described and what I instantly was familiar with, and anybody in here who's saying that they're getting triggered, and again, I'm not going to point anybody out, I'm not pointing any fingers because I don't judge, clearly, which is that the first time that he did it, so he had had a terrible childhood and PTSD and all this sort of stuff, and that's the reason he became a PhD psychiatrist, is to understand what was wrong with his brain because he had PTSD, and as many people do, they get into neurology and all these sort of things. So the first time that, in fact, the first time he tried heroin was in a clinical setting, in a psychological clinical setting. And what he described, I think, is very familiar to anyone who has tried it, is this immediate, instant, overwhelming feeling of love. Oh, acceptance, and everything is going to be okay. And that is how you feel. A euphoric sense of everything is going to be okay. See, the problem is that everything is not going to be okay. But you don't know that because everything is okay. And here's the thing that I think most people are who are unfamiliar with this issue, is that many people think, in fact, most people, if they think, one, that heroin is the absolute positive worst, most, oh my God, just degrading, the worst possible thing. And in part, I think that, again, tropes and stereotypes happen for a reason. Because when you picture junkies, right, what you see are these street people who are literally out shitting in alleys and covered in their own filth, and they just don't give a shit. And, you know, frankly, there's a reason for that, because they don't give a shit. I mean, really, they think everything's okay, right? But to be perfectly honest, about 90% of heroin addicts are totally functional, and you would never know. You would never know. Countless musicians, athletes, people in the entertainment industry, and CEOs and accountants are functional heroin addicts. Frankly, it's not that expensive, and I mean, here in Seattle, it's a epidemic drug, right? And you can easily get an 8-ball for, I don't know, $150, $160, right? That's a, you know, eighth of an ounce. That's enough to keep at my peak habit a week, at least 10 days maybe. If there's 2 people using, a lot less, but I could go almost 2 weeks, actually, 10 days plus, even at my peak use. So it's not terribly expensive. If you got, I mean, again, a lot of people spend more than that on the liquor store, right? So, you know, if you got $500 a month, $300 to $500 a month, you can have a really raging habit, and no one's the wiser, right? And for many people, right, if they do the wasteful thing and just smoke it or whatever, chase that dragon, right? So you spend $1,500 a month, but if you're making bank, doesn't matter, and you got no tracks, you got no collapsing veins, you got no problems, right? And you're always feeling good. And in fact, I can say that during my period of time, the number of months that I used, I actually did, in some ways, my job better. Because there was no stress, right? Many of the things that I had to do were they're very stressful. It's stress management. Well, having, you know, 35 years of experience doing something, you can do it with your eyes closed, and you remove the stress, and you think everything's going to be okay. Man, you can cruise right through that, and you look like a god doing it, man. You're completely nonplussed. You got this thing under control, right? So, anyway. Yeah, one thing happens and nobody gets out unscathed. And so it was a very effective tool for both pain management and sickness. Now, frankly, I did, if you get too much going when you're injecting it, I'm a puker, right? I did launch my lunch on my loafers more than once, but only during, when you overdo it a little bit, or you do it too close. And one of the things about, if you got a habit of injecting, right, you always got to find a place to do it, and you got to time it out, and it's a super huge hassle, and you got to find a vein, and especially if you're doing the shitty tar they got in Seattle, we don't get that pure number 4 white China shit. We get crappy tar, it tears up your veins. It's nasty, and so. You don't get people here in Seattle that are junkies for 20 years. That doesn't happen. It'll kill you, right? Go to Portland. We got kids out there, 18, 19 years old, and they look like they're 90, and they've been using it for 3 years, and it's ugly. So here's what happened, right? So many people, because this all sort of happened about the same time, many people want to put all these things together. And they go, oh, you started using heroin and you lost all your shit. That's not really how it went down. Again, I was in pain. I started using. So I had a habit, but it wasn't really affecting anything negatively at the time. Sure, it probably wasn't the right choice to make, right? And there are probably some karmic consequences to it, but again, no harm to anybody else. It's certainly illegal. You're taking a risk, but not harming anybody else. It's basically a victimless crime, and it is really self-medication in that sense. It was absolutely primarily for pain management, and again, but it has this other effect, and there's no doubt about it. And that's what kind of pulls you in, as well as the fact that opioids are absolutely fucking addictive, right? So you don't get out for free. You just can't. Nobody chips, right? You don't do weekend chipping. It just doesn't happen. And so that happened. So 6, 7, 8 months go by, and by this time she's joined me because it's there, right? And she likes them. And so we both got pretty good habit going. And at this point, we stopped socializing with other people. You just don't want to leave the house, right? You just and there's no point. We love each other. We're kind of new in our relationship. Things are ducky. We had a great time, frankly, during that period of time. but again, things happened, and not a result of that. What? So she unexpectedly lost her job. She got downsized. They just closed the department. That's not really a result of drugs. And then the two artists that I had on my roster, one quit, and the other got married and moved back to Utah, where I had just moved back to Seattle from. I'm like, oh, fuck, man, I'm not doing that. And so now I'm sitting on a $150,000 plus, about $250,000 audio system by the time you put all the pieces together, right? That I'm still making payments on, that I got no business for, and we have no income. We got a savings, right? We're not destitute, but we've got no income. But you see, here's the problem. Everything is fine, right? It just hit right at that time where everything is fine. So we didn't move fast enough, and I've said that plainly. We didn't respond quickly enough, and that's why, right? It wasn't drugs that threw us under the bus. It was we just let the bus hit us. We didn't move and let the bus get out of the way and let the bus hit us. And then once that happened, right, there was nothing for it, but it makes you feel better, right? So we did it a little bit longer, and there goes some of your savings, right? And but both of us, came to and looked at each other, and this is even before we left the house, and looked at each other and said, "This shit has got to stop. We cannot. We're gonna die." So we tucked our tail between our legs, and we went to a methadone clinic, and suffered the indignities of that. And it's really hard. But let me tell you. So that was 6 years ago, something like that. And then things happen and shit, and then we were really in a tough spot, and so that's trying to dig out of it. I had to anyway. So we got so that happened, yeah. And then we were in a shithole, right? We're living in this shithole trailer, and trying to figure out what to do, and man, it was daily wanting to just go walk in front of the train when I would go to work at night. I got a job at a slinging cigarettes overnight at an Indian reservation drive-through cigarette shop, and every morning when I would come home, I just knew that I was gonna find her on the railroad tracks. I can do it, man. It was during that period of time that I learned that a lesson I should have learned a long time ago is that when people offer to help you when you're down, they don't want to help you. They want to help them. They see that you're desperate, and they want to take advantage of you. And so that happened as well. And what was promised to be, a cheap place for us to park our trailer and for me to build out a bus that I bought, so we would have a motorhome, that turned into a fucking nightmare without getting into all that. She stole all of my equipment and made us get rid of the bus and kicked us out and raised the rent arbitrarily all the time, and then just locked us out illegally, and we couldn't get our shit, and still. Anyway, so there was that. And here's the thing, guys, I don't like fighting, and what I read in scripture and what Dad tells me, right, is that let these conflicts be his, right? He'll clean it all up in the end. I don't have to fight these battles, right? He'll clean them up in the end. And frankly, Madeline would prefer that I just go take a baseball bat to their fucking heads, because I'm more than capable of it, but it's not in my heart, right? I can't. And so during that period of time, suffering the indignities and all the bullshit that you have to go through at a methadone clinic, and they just treat you like shit. It's like they're lowest level medical personnel, frankly. And again, I don't try to disparage anybody but they're really like their premise is that they're there to help people, but they're selling drugs for money just like everybody else is. It's just state-sponsored drug dealing, and they treat you exactly like prisons, like criminal. And no, I haven't spent a lot of time in jail, but I did go to jail a couple of times when I was a kid because I wouldn't pay tickets, so I have at least some idea what that looks like. Question's gonna come up as well. Anyway, so we're just fucking sick of it, and so they treat you like shit. And frankly, right? Again, not to be prideful, right? It's just not my way. But again, the people who are the tropes, right? The stereotypical junkie. The reason they get in that place, right, is because they let go of everything. And so they let themselves get into the worst possible condition. And so that's what you see. You see them at their absolute worst, right? And this is the dregs of humanity, some of them. Some of them really are bad people. Most are not. Most are just in a shitty situation. But the thing is, right, is that heroin is one of the hardest things to kick. And most people don't. In fact, almost no one does. It kills most people. So kids don't do heroin, how about that? But it kills most people because if you have any predisposition, toward quit, and I mean give up, right? You won't. If there's anything in you that doesn't let you go the full distance and you don't have absolute 100% determination, do or die, you won't make it. You just don't make it because it's too easy. It's too easy to give in and get that overwhelming feeling of love back. It's too easy. So we hated it. The clinic, and she'd done it before. She spent, 15 years at the clinic, and she told me about it when we first got together, right, what a nightmare it was. When it sure as fuck is. It's a goddamn nightmare. Anyway, just dropping our dose down, tapering off, and I got down below 20, 22, 18, 17, 16, 15, 12, and I don't remember what it was exactly. Oh, I think it was the shit with the that person in Puyallup, and that whole thing caused me to relapse again. I was real low, and had an opportunity, just a random chance thing, right? Somebody at the clinic, because they got it, and I had transferred clinics, and so you got to go every day, right? They make you go every day, and if you miss a day, they kick you out. It's you got to go exactly at the same time. It's just really, it's a hassle. It's a life. Oh my God, you can't even imagine if you haven't been through it. You can't even imagine what it is. So, yeah. Anyway, so it was a chance encounter and just a brief. So it was another relapse, and but that was enough, man. That was enough to go fuck this shit. Nasty product, blowing your veins out, constantly stressed, worried about everything. By this time again, I'm was working again, and just terrified that I would not be able to get my schedule to work out with when I needed to fix, and yeah, just fuck that shit, man. And so then. Yeah, different job, different place, moved again, transferred clinics. I've been there for, 5 years now, so a little over 5 years, I guess, now. So that's the story on that. So, yeah, I still go to a methadone clinic. Had Carrie's taken a couple of times because I accidentally took benzos, and I didn't realize. Didn't realize that they were going to be pissy about that. Because what do I know? I'm dumb. I'm not a junkie. I don't know any of this stuff. I mean, a lot of people there know this. They know all the ins and outs and the details and how to play the game. I don't know any of that. I just keep my head down, and I don't want any part of it. And it's been brutal, frankly. The last few months. The last year with the whole COVID thing and the way that they behave with that, it's just been a fucking nightmare. And it's just, then they do everything they can just to step on your throat and make you feel like they just try to provoke you, right? So they can write you up to kick you out. It's just, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, so now here comes the transition and the part that I'm really sad about. So, and I guess I premise this that I'm not, my intention here is not to, I tried to figure out how to tell this story without, indirectly, right? And I just don't think it can be done. But neither do I think that that is, makes it necessary to put anybody on blast or go attack anybody, because that's not my way. It's not what I do. And I don't think I need to mention any names, but I don't think I can do it without identifying people. So it just is what it is. And so here's where we're at. And this is why I got to do the next steps, right? Which is that in the last few days, it's come to my attention, right, that apparently beginning with people that I care for and had close relationship with, right, and frankly, who should have known better, with whom I had shared this information. They knew that I had a history of that. Made assumptions that my current situation is directly linked to opium or opioid use. And going to start by saying the fact that I'm currently still at a clinic means that I have to pee into a cup every month and suffer all kinds of indignities, as well as the fact that there's a doctor there who monitors everything. And in fact, when I didn't have insurance, that's the first doctor I visited with my concerns about my intractable vomiting. And she did a variety of tests, right? Because their first thought, obviously, is that I need to up my dose, or I'm not, I'm going into withdrawal and I need to up my dose or whatever. And that's not the case, right? So it's not at all that, right? It's not. But this speculation, and again, so I can, and I suppose those who have little experience with some of this stuff, just enough to kind of know the street stuff or whatever, that heroin makes you puke, and because I have some terrible dental issues right now, and again, that kind of come all at the same time, but not related to it. That's a meth thing, and I don't do meth. Anyway, I think some people kind of put some two and two together and got five. And but unfortunately, it's people that I trusted and cared about, and the hardest part is they didn't come to me and just ask, and started wildly speculating, apparently, and I don't. This only came to me through a third party, and God bless that person for being the only person who just cared enough to ask. And if you did care, and if you thought that was the case, why didn't you just do an intervention? That's what I would have needed and wanted. If I fall off the wagon, come fucking get me. Put me down, really. But here's the thing, right? Here's why the hurt happens, and kind of why I know where and how, and I can only tell the truth, right? I'm not going to go into speculation. I'm sure it will create speculation, and I'm also aware that by me saying this and bringing this up, right, I've drawn attention to something that I really, again, not proud about, but it's part of my story. I can't deny it. And I haven't been hidden about it. I haven't brought it to the fore, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's not a pretty part of the tale, but it's part of the tale. And I've mentioned before, and I think I have mentioned perhaps in a stream, that, or maybe it was just in conversation with people, because I talk to people, right, is that a number of people, and I mean, again, overly statistically represented number of people in this community are recovered heroin addicts. Like, far more than your, per capita. And I got to tell you, I have immense respect for them. I don't dismiss or belittle or judge them, because I know what it takes. Anybody who can get out of that shit you're a fucking hero, man, to me, and to stay out of it, right? And to go through what we've gone through here, which is to lose your life with all your beliefs and not go back to it, right? To be cast out. We all know what it's like to be outcast. And I think to an extent, right, there's a degree of people, I think, right, in our community who, many of us have always been outcast to one degree or another, right? And so we all want acceptance and love. And so some people, right, are less into the material. They know less about the material, just that there's an accepting group of people, right? And so we get all kinds, right? We sure do. And I love them, right? I love that when I met the people at the Flattoberfest and Solar Return, people of all kinds. Some very curious types, right? But people of all kinds. But one of the other things that I noticed at those events, and we all came back glowing, right, and just effusive about the connections that we made and what an awesome community this is. But the other thing that I noticed, and I don't think you can be around very long, right, is that the other thing that happens in this community is that there's a tendency for people to just cannibalize themselves. Christians have a long history of being what I called the only army that I ever heard of that shot their own wounded and had a circular firing squad. And would be first to run people out of their church when they ran into difficulty in their life. Here, I think it works out a bit. The dynamics are somewhat different, and that is that we've all been lied to and betrayed by the people that we were taught to trust, those in authority. And so we are inherently distrustful. And then when you know that there are elements of the, I don't know, government or they or whatever, that do have, agents provocateur, moles and bots and trolls and that sort of stuff, right? And there are other people who just get a kick out of it. They just, get a kick out of just harassing people. That's where they get their jollies, I guess. So you take a group of people who have been burned about as hard as you can be burned, and then put them in a mix of other misfits who are all hyper vigilant and suspicious and paranoid, and everybody starts pointing fingers at everybody else, and I don't have to tell you, people calling everybody shills and agents and CIA and this and that, and it's a mess. And I always knew that eventually I'd be the target of it. I mean, you just don't, you don't say, it bounces off everybody. It goes ding, 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 from one to another. So-and-so did this, and so-and-so did that, and blah, blah, blah. And, but, again, I saw a fair bit of this, unfortunately, and sadly, at the events. And it dinged me a little bit, right? Especially because of my, I guess I would say, if you want to say naive, Pollyanna view of trying to get this community living thing together. Just go, again, I always say, you give people enough time, they'll show you who they are. And that's true, and that remains true. And yet, I also have, and it does sometimes drive my wife crazy, right? I'm very willing to overlook things, understanding that nobody's perfect. I'm not. I have more issues than National Geographic, to be honest. Right? But those issues are, I've shared many of them with you already. I've been struggling with depression really for 10 years, since the back surgery primarily. So I've been struggling with the longest period of chronic depression I ever had. I struggle with pain, physical, emotional. I struggle with looking out around us and seeing the world in the state that it's in, and it makes me weep, and the injustice, and it just bugs me to death, right? And so when I had this, I don't know, grand and glorious idea that I was going to help people find way to secret Santa them or whatever, right? And people had sent in a fair amount of money, a few $1,000s. And I kept finding people to give it to because they needed it. And I had people getting mad at me because I wasn't spending the money on me and Mrs. Baldini like they insisted, right? And I'm like, well, if it's a gift, it's a gift, right? I mean, like, everyone that I have given money to, I've never once even implied how they ought to spend it. It's a gift. I let it go. You do with it what you want to. I hope that's good stuff, but I let it go. It's not mine anymore. And it's one thing that I never really cared for about, again, that when people see other people in need and they offer them stuff, but there's these strings attached, right? That's not helping. That's business, right? You want something in return. So in the midst of all this, I'd been ill, and there was some other. This is so hard, man. So the things go back and forth in this community again. People accuse people of this and that, and people kind of, I don't know, tribe up a little bit, and they talk and back and forth. And I try to stay well clear of that. I don't care for it. It just doesn't make me feel good. And again, I don't want people talking about me, but I know they will, and I don't. Usually, I don't care, right? It's again, it doesn't matter, right? They don't know me. But when they do, that's harder, right? So there's another person here locally that I think most of you know, and they do podcasts as well, and we kind of became friends, and we're all in the same community. We started talking, and they invited me out, and at first I couldn't. Madeline, of course, wouldn't go because she's terrified. And then she and his wife became pretty good friends, and so then she did go once, and didn't have a terrible time. She was terrified, and it took her weeks to build up to it and to get over it because she can't do a phone call without a month of. I'm talking like phone call to Verizon to change your plan without going through every moment of it because she just can't talk to people. And so then again, the world fell apart, and it was all this, so we were going to get together again. And one of the things that we always had, right, and we had busy schedules, so we talk on the phone from time to time. And there was a couple of things that came up and early on. And one was early on talking about, I guess, a third content creator who had made some attacks on both he and I. And I'm uncomfortable with those conversations because I don't want to get together and talk about people behind their backs. But there was a couple of times where it was kind of necessary to say what is going on and what are the nature of these things. And it came forward that he had had a close relationship with this person previously, and then they had very few boundaries, I think, and shared very personal information with one another. And then one used it against the other to embarrass them. And boy, I can understand that feeling of betrayal, certainly. Right, and so, but then I thought it odd that almost immediately thereafter, they kind of began trying to pump me for like closely held, information, like tell me the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you, like stuff. And it didn't go unnoticed, but again, I deal with a lot of stuff. I have a lot of grace for weirdness. I am a weird guy myself, but I owe a huge apology to my wife, who immediately said there's something off. And again, I don't want to get into anybody's mail, but I have to. There's enough. I have to tell enough of this just to my side of the story, right? So it just is what it is. And that I'm sorry for if I'm breaking confidence, but I feel like I'm owed this much. So his wife told my wife that he is a psychopathic control freak. Well, you know how couples are. they say things, and you know, again, you know how people get. My old man, my old lady. I mean, so, but it seemed a curious thing. Again, he and I have a similar sense of humor. We get along. We're similar age. We have similar interests. Again, I can deal with a lot of stuff. I'll be honest, my wife was uncomfortable. And so the time passed, and we a lot of time, we had intended to get together and try to solidify and grow this relationship. And then again, all sorts of stuff happened with his family, and but we continued to talk, and we were going to try to get together. And one of the things that we always had, again, with we talked fairly regularly, and one of the things we always kind of said is like sometimes we'd not be able to call each other back, and get, you know, each other we'd kind of get nervous or whatever, like what's going on, because people, you know, they talk and they do this weird stuff in the community, and so. We said that we would, you know, don't get paranoid. If there's ever a problem, we'll just talk to each other. We'll just call each other up and say, you know, hey, there's a problem. Yeah, I agree with that. That's fair, because I'm always going to go directly to that person. And so we had then a thing came up wherein Rose had asked. I'm sorry, another person had asked about the green butter, and they were a lot of people actually, and how to make it and that sort of stuff. And as it happens, one of my very dear friends and member of this community, because he was helping me out with the RSO, because you can't buy it, he just gave it to me. He also gave me just like an embarrassment of riches in terms of quality product, more than I could ever hope to use myself. I just don't do it that much. It's delightful, and I love it. And I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity. So some was primo, like retail quality, and some was more trim, right? And so I was like, oh, hey, we can do this. And so I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. Again, back when I had a commercial kitchen, and I had to deal with the local dispensary. And this is back when going back all the way before it was legal, when it was just a prescription. I had the prescription card, and I had to deal with the local dispensary. Well, I made edibles. I made cookies and toffee and ice cream and a variety of things that they could sell. And I still have some of the cards, right, all the test stuff that they had. It's kind of cool, right? And so anyway, I had, in making, and you can make anything infused, right? You can do any sort of fat you can infuse. And so from coconut oil to olive oil, fuck you name it, man, bacon fat, right? Just infusing everything. And so, you know, it was like, so one of the things, and so I had this commercial kitchen, which allowed me to do a lot of things really well. And so in making butter, one of the things that I had loved doing was making my own butter, right? Straight from heavy cream. Had a KitchenAid, right? Do all this stuff. So it was also, then I started, I was like, hey, can I do it this way? And I'll tell you, it's not, if you're looking for a quick and easy method, it is not that, right? Like most things in the kitchen, it's not microwave, right? You just, it takes, to do it this other way, it takes an enormous amount of effort. And it is a huge mess, and it's a cleanup, but after 3 or 4 or 5 times doing it, I got it pretty well. And it, in fact, it was pretty much worth the effort, right? In small quantities is kind of worth the effort. So anyway, she had asked that we, and I was like, hey, well, let's make a video on putting this together. And it'd be great. We'll do this the next time we get together. Okay, super great. And then one of the things that, again, we had revisited, right, is this, can we make sure that this time when we come, there's no guests, right, because she can't. She's worked up for, she wants to see her friend, and you know, she puts up with me. So, yeah, okay. And also, the other times that I'd gone out, I took a portable podcasting rig, a laptop. I had my stuff on it, and a microphone and a keyboard, right? And it's, you know, again, big fucking hassle. Well, this time we were gonna bring all the stuff to make the butter, and I was super excited. And I just gotten this ice cream maker that I was super excited about, and because it had a compressor in it, right, so it could make ice cream. I thought, oh fuck, we can. I'll be infusing cream, so I could make green ice cream. That'd be awesome. And true to form, right? I get pretty excited and sometimes like I don't know, overkill or whatever. But I wanted to do something, really cool, make it fun. So I brought a big bunch of stash, right, and a whole bunch of cream, and it was like a lot of stash. And my intention was, and so here's things started kind of going off the rails early on, right? So my intention was, and this is probably this will help understand kind of I guess my behavior a little bit. Is my intention at the outset was to go, hey, we have these two different ways to make it, and one is kind of the standard way, and this other way is like super labor intensive, and it's really hard, it's really messy, but it's also really good, right? And it's a little bit like an object lesson, right? About how sometimes the things that that seem ridiculously hard are so worth the effort, right? I see you see the man fan, and I tried that, and it should have been handled differently. You're right. You should have come and called me. You should have talked to me, and you could have just asked me, because somebody else did. And they asked me directly what's going on, and I told them. And if you had been my friend and you really cared, an intervention would have been better than what happened. But I'm going to continue to tell the story from my point of view, because this is, again, I'm not going to speculate much, but I am going to say this because I think it needs to be said, because I am opening the kimono completely here. I'm standing naked in front of the world. And I think I deserve this much. So I chose poorly, and I made an assumption that I just assumed that's well. So also I had brought him up a microphone and some stuff to help his system, and he was seemed to be having some troubles with it. I was like, hey, I'll just go use his system. I won't do any of my streams except for the Freaky Freaks, the little ringy dingy thing. I'll just take one little bag of tuning forks, and I'll just do it early morning session. And then I won't do any of the others, and because it's getting into a labor intensive thing. And then anyway, so we get there, and pleasantries are had, and we start the process. And I'm trying to sort of like explain what I have in mind, and I didn't really get that far, because immediately we just grab the big part of the big bag of bud product and just start and so my intention had been I was going to break that in half and just give them half of the really good bud just to smoke, just as a gift. Say, hey, thanks for bringing a bud. Take the other half, and when we broke it down, if I put it in a food Vitamix, because I know they have one. They have a blender, right? So see, some of these things I don't have. So it turns into a really super fine powder. And this is part of the process with this, is that it was really like it took me several times to kind of figure out how to do it. And it worked better if you use kind of a cheesecloth bag and to do that, because otherwise you have to try to filter it out. And you could filter out bigger pieces, but not little pieces. Anyway, just kind of got jump started, and it's like, well, I want to do it this way. Okay, well, I mean, all right, that's not what I have. So it sort of changed things, and I'm not wanting to be a dick. I don't want to say, oh, well, that's, okay, we'll roll with it. We'll go with that. And that kept happening, right? So I never really got to explain anything. It's just like, no, I know how to do it. I know how to do it. It's like, well, okay. But again, I'm not wanting to be a dick. And also, something unfortunate had happened, which is there was a problem with a family member who needed a place to stay, and that man's stuff happens, and would I have done anything different? I don't think so. But it created another dynamic, which is that this family member with a young child then came to be part of the house for the weekend, which again put Madeline into like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. And I should have pulled the plug right then. Because she was uncomfortable, and I should have really honored that. But she always seems to do okay. It's like, because she puts a good face on it. It's not until later that I know. And then, so it's all good. We have a lovely dinner. It's a good time. Everything's going well, pretty much. But there's some tension, and I can tell it. And then, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna, here's our room. We're gonna go to bed. And then I asked about, hey. In the morning, I'm going to do the Freaky Freaks thing. I'm not going to do any of the other streams, so I won't spend our time doing that. But I wish to do this, and I want to like maybe dial in your system a little bit. And the eyes got big, and oh well, I had it all covered up, and I'm like, oh okay, well that's all right, you know. And then things took this really odd turn. I was like, I don't really need anything. I'm just gonna I just gonna plug in a thing and it's a microphone. I'll just check it out. And all of a sudden, the behavior got panicked. And Madeline's like freaking out. It's like, and he's running around and like, what the hell is going on here? And he, stay away. It's just to stay away from it. Stay away. It's like everything is on there. I'm like, what? Like, I don't freak anything out. Just okay. No, I mean, I'll just use my iPad or I'll figure something out. But he insisted on. Made a huge deal of setting up a new profile, and so the couple of things I'd done to sort of set it up for the program was suddenly wiped away, and I had to do it again. But it's like it sets up a whole new profile, and again, it's very clear this discomfiture is that I not see something there. And again, I'm not going to speculate. I don't care. I would have never looked. It doesn't matter. But the behavior was so intense and so off the wall. Madeline was done, and she was frankly furious with me that I did not leave right then, just pack up and leave, and I couldn't. I was in such an odd spot, and also because, I had started this process that I knew was going to be extremely labor intensive, extremely messy. It was going to destroy their kitchen. But I was there for it, right? I was really going to put in the effort and make breakfast and stuff and do it. So I did the morning show, but it was really awkward all morning. And then I got super sick. And then I was told, don't worry about it, just go home. I'm like, man, I can't. As much as I want to, I can't leave this like this. It's a fucking mess, and we're deeply invested. I got $1,000 worth of product in there that is kind of wasted if we don't figure out how to correct this. We're in deep, and I got to fix this. Do not worry, I got this. Are you sure? Because, yeah, don't worry. And Madeline's super relieved to go, and as soon as I get in the car, she's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, CFM. I have prescription skills pills across your work desk. What? Dude, it doesn't need to be this. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. I'm just saying what happened, right? She was never going to come back at that point. And I knew that it would be awkward, right? Because it was such a odd behavior. But I was waiting for that call, and it just never came. And then I got a different kind of call, right? That these accusations were being made. And so, dude, I love you, but this has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with opioids. It has nothing to do with any of that, right? And throwing me under the bus and making accusations and speculation with an entire community because I shared with you in confidence that I'd fallen down a number of years ago. I don't know, man. And then I and again, thank you so much, Jenny, for just talking to me. But then I tried to talk to a couple other people and say, man, I'm really hurting. And then I got concerned. At first, it was like ignorance of what is like what I don't know what's going on. And then I knew what was going on. I just wanted to see how you respond. And I don't know, it hurts. And with the people that are involved, well, again, there's no reason to bring names. I mean, it's just like it's the community. So I'm not really nearly as excited about going to Oktoberfest as I was. Clearly, I haven't canceled yet, but I got to say that while I've been transparent and I acknowledge and accept everything that I've ever done, some of it's not pretty. I at least like some fucking dignity. Right? Just some dignity left. And I don't know, that's the question, Seating Fan Man. Why? Yeah, right? Why? Because all you had to do was ask Dad, right? All you had to do, if you had concerns about it, you really could have just asked Dad. But you didn't ask him, and you didn't ask me, and nobody did. Nobody asked me. And again, if that were the issue, first of all, that would have been the first place that the doctors would have looked. And second, if I were struggling, I'd probably ask for help just like I did with all the other stuff. I think the window's passed. I mean, I tried to call it yesterday, man. And you should have called me first, frankly. Because we always said, right, if there was a problem, that you just call. And you didn't. And I did. And you didn't, so. I don't know, man. I don't know, Kevlar. I don't know. It's not like a punishment, right? Because here's the thing, right? I'm really super grieved for the people in the community because I don't know. Here's the thing: is that it puts in doubt and in jeopardy everything with the poppy cult. So here's the thing: it's not like this person or any of the people that that have been talking were ever even interested in it, right? Are going to be part of it. So it's not ever. That's not even a thing, but. What is the thing, right, is that this can happen, and that this is continuing to happen, and not just with me, but with so many people in our community who, the finger pointing and things breaking down. And I said from the beginning, right, that was my primary concern with this, is that it's not the right circumstances, but the right people to make this happen. Because with the right circumstances, but the wrong people, it would ultimately, no matter what, fail. And with the wrong people and the right people, and even the wrong circumstances, it would succeed. And so I will. Here's the thing. There is no more precious thing to me in this world than my wife, and she is beautiful, and she is. I will not expose her to any kind of bullshit or toxic behavior or a community that eats its own. Not going to do it. Ever. And so there are many in this community. I love you dearly. And you have been nothing but good to me, and I love you deeply. And I love you too, Rich. It is sad. I tried. I really did. I tried to do it privately, and it didn't work. And at that point, I think, you see, it had already gone too far. You guys started this, and you ran with it, and without ever talking to me. And the well is poisoned, and that's why I came to this thing where I couldn't. That this is not a back and forth, and I don't want to get into back and forth videos. I would rather just let it drop. I've said the things that I need to say. That it's not that, and I'm super disappointed and really hurt, and I don't know what the future holds right now, because I'm deeply disappointed, and I don't. I absolutely do not want anyone to attack or badmouth Ceiling Fan Man or anybody else. Please don't. Please don't. That's not what this is about. I still care deeply for him. But the relationship is over, man. Don't tell me what to do. Don't say do it now. Don't threaten me. That's bullshit. Anything that you say negative from this point on is going to be a lie, and you know it. Look at my eyes, dude. You know it. I have done. If anyone has any evidence of violence that I have done to anyone's person or reputation in this community, that I have intentionally harmed, please bring it out, and I will acknowledge and make it right. When I asked for, I've only asked for money one time for a computer. And from then on out, it was for other people. And I have distributed every penny and paid the transfer fees and contributed my own money. So if there's anyone who thinks that somehow I've shorted anybody or did any of that for personal gain, Again, I'm willing to show you my bank records for the last 2 years, under the condition that you're willing to show yours as well. Anyone. I'm not saying you personally. Anyone. If you feel like you need to look at that to be convinced, then I'm just sincere, and I intended no harm toward anyone. I was just trying to help, and I have been kind of summarily thrown on my ass. When I was in Salt Lake City, I went to a church called K2, and I helped them launch, and it became the most successful Christian non-Mormon church in Salt Lake City history. It's still there. At the time, I was married to a gal that I had met in Redding, California. I won't mention her name either, and it was a short-lived marriage because, again, I guess I'm bad at reading red flags. So she was less than 2 years out of a 10-year alcoholic abusive marriage. So, probably not enough time there. And suddenly, I took a job in Salt Lake City, flew back, got married, and the person who I got engaged to in Redding never made it to Salt Lake City. Somebody different came, and I don't know what happened there. But that was fairly short-lived. But we were fairly public figures in the church, and she left under, again, strange circumstances. She wouldn't tell anybody why, and she was just really hostile. And so everyone on staff there assumed that I must be responsible, since, I was determined not to sin with my lips. And so I wouldn't badmouth her. And one thing's about badmouthing a spouse, especially if you're going through difficult times, is if you do reconcile, now you have put all that bad shit out there about them, right? And now either the shit that you said was true and you're an idiot for being with them, or the shit that you said was not true and you're just a jerk, right? So anyway, she left, and the staff decided that whatever had occurred, that I must be responsible. I guess I'm the guy, or because I wouldn't give it up either. I don't know. But I've not been back to a church since. Now, again, not really directly because of that, but I have said I've never had so much healing or so much wounding as in the walls of a church. And I suppose that is also, to a degree, true here. I have met and become acquainted with some just world-class, amazing people. And I don't think I'll ever want to lose those relationships. But I also see that there's some dysfunction, generally, that I don't know that I'm ready to live with that in close community. Now, again, I would want to vet people, and so there's a few people I think we've been talking, and until you show me that you're disingenuous or you're going to harm me, I think we're still good. But generally, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for me in this community, or again, whether I'll even be accepted or allowed to go to Flattoberfest. Right? A lot of questions have been raised, and serious questions, and I've tried to address those as best I can. I've always been an open book, but I tried to do this offline, and it didn't work. And the fact that I just opened my mouth again, it's just to tell my side of the story. It's not to throw you under the bus, dude. That's not my intention. But I can only tell you how it occurred, and that I'm hurting. And, I don't know. I was going to say I'm not angry. It is frustrating, and I think. But I don't hold grudges. I'll get over it. But it puts in serious doubt how willing I am to commit myself to I don't know. So I don't know what to do. What I do know is I've talked very, very closely with Dad over the last few days, and asked him how to approach this. And I think I'm doing the best. I just wanted to do the right thing, not to be right, or I don't think the best thing, because I don't think I know what that is. But the right thing. And it's just, I don't like the phrase "speak my truth" because it just seems subjective, and I don't believe in that. But I can only tell you how I viewed it and what occurred on the timeline as I saw it. And I'm really hurt, and I don't know what to do next. And it puts in serious jeopardy. Well, I'll tell you this. I know Dad's nudged me to leave CO, and I will. And the word is by the end of the year, and I'm going to do my best to do that. And I still feel kind of pointed in the same direction, but now it's that's become very awkward and probably not what I thought it was going to be. I don't know. And I think that's what I got to say. And I'm sorry I haven't really read your comments. And no, I love you too, Rich. But that's not. I don't know. Come back tomorrow for ancient wisdom, and I'll just read. How about that? I'm sorry to be a bummer, guys. Sorry to disappoint you. I know that, yeah, it's not going to happen, dude. That ship sailed. But I'm not going to talk about it again. I'll say that. As long as it doesn't continue, I won't talk about it again ever. It just doesn't matter. Because I think I'm done. I love you guys.
Questions you ask, are you still my friend? You should know after all that has passed, I am here to the end. And yes, it makes me feel like a fool, knowing I haven't come through for you. No, it's not the same when you call out my name. Can't believe the things that you ask. Don't you know what it means to speak the words that you've given me, to tell of my dreams? And yes, I think that I'll be okay once I let go and you have your way. And no, I'm not afraid, I just don't know what to say. can believe the time that has passed, and it's getting near dark. You should be almost home by now, but you're here in my heart. And yes, it makes me feel like a fool, knowing I haven't come through for you. And no, it's not the same, but I'll still call out